a very old childhood copy of one of my favorite books, the Delaire's Book of Greek Myths by Ingrid and Edgar Delaire's. It's from Dell Publishing and Yearling Books. The Golden Fleece. The Muses sang about handsome Jason and his quest for the Golden Fleece. Jason of Iolcus was as strong and well-bred as he was handsome, for he had been raised by the wise centaur Chiron. Jason's father had brought the boy to the centaur and had asked him to bring him up, for he feared that his own brother Peleus, who had taken him from the throne of Iolcus, might harm his heir. In Chiron's lonely mountain cave, young Jason was raised to be a hero, skilled in all manly sports. When he was grown, he left his foster father to go to Iolcus and reclaim his father's throne. Hera, who was paying a visit to Earth, saw the handsome youth as he walked down from the mountain. His golden hair hung to his shoulders, and his strong body was wrapped in a leopard skin. Hera was taken by his fine looks. She quickly changed herself into an old crone and stood helplessly at the brink of a swollen stream as if she did not dare to wade across. Jason offered politely to carry her and lifted her on his strong shoulders. He started to wade, and at first she was very light, but with each step she grew heavier, and when he reached midstream, she was so heavy that his feet sank deep into the mud. He lost one of his sandals, but struggled bravely on. And when he reached the other side, the old crone revealed herself as the goddess Hera. "Lo," she said, "you are a mortal after my liking. I shall stand by you and help you win back your throne from your uncle Peleus." This was a promise the goddess gladly gave, for she had a grudge against Peleus, who had once forgotten to include her when he sacrificed to the gods. Jason thanked her and went on his way in high spirits. When he arrived in Iolcus, people crowded around him, wondering who the handsome stranger might be. But when King Peleus saw him, his cheeks paled. An oracle had predicted that a youth with only one sandal would be his undoing. Peleus feigned great friendship when Jason said who he was and why he had come, but underneath he held dark thoughts and planned to do away with his guest. Peleus feasted Jason and flattered him and promised him the throne as soon as he had performed a heroic deed to prove himself worthy of being a king. "In the kingdom of Colchis, at the shores of the Black Sea," said Peleus, "on a branch in a dark grove, there hangs a golden fleece, shining as brightly as the sun. Bring the fleece to me, and the throne shall be yours." The golden fleece was once the coat of a flying ram, sent by Zeus to save the life of young Prince Phrixus of Thessaly. The crops had failed, and Phrixus's evil stepmother had convinced his father that he must sacrifice his son to save his country from famine. Sadly, the king built an altar and put his son on it. But Zeus hated human sacrifice, and as the king lifted his knife, a golden ram swooped down from the skies and flew off with Phrixus on his back. They flew far to the east and landed in the kingdom of Colchis. The king of Colchis understood that Phrixus had been sent by the gods. He gave him his daughter in marriage and sacrificed the ram. Its glittering fleece was hung in a sacred grove, and it was the greatest treasure of the country. King Peleus was certain that Jason would not return alive, for he knew that the warlike king of Colchis would not part with the fleece, and that a never-sleeping dragon was guarding it. But Peleus did not know that Jason had Hera's help. "Give me timber, and men to build for me a sturdy ship, and I shall sail off at once," said Jason. The king gave him what he asked for, and a great ship, the Argo, was built. It was the most seaworthy ship ever seen. Athena, herself prodded by Hera, put a piece of sacred oak in its prow. The oak had the power to speak in time of danger and advise Jason what to do. With a ship like that, it was not hard for Jason to gather a crew of heroes. Even Heracles came with his young friend Hylas. Calais and Zetes, winged sons of the north wind, joined, and Orpheus came along to inspire the crew with his music. Soon each of the 50 oars of the ship was manned by a hero who swore to stand by Jason through all dangers. Before they set sail, the heroes, who called themselves the Argonauts, sacrificed richly to the gods and made sure to forget no one. Poseidon was in a good mood. He called for the west wind, and under full sail the Argo sped toward the east. When the wind grew tired and died down, the Argonauts put up their oars and rowed with all their might. Orpheus beat out the time with his lyre, and the ship cut through the waves like an arrow. One after the other, the heroes grew tired and pulled in their oars. Only Heracles and Jason were left rowing, each trying to outlast the other. Jason finally fainted, but just as he slumped forward, Heracles' huge oar broke in two, so equal glory was won by them both. The Argonauts landed at a wooded coast so Heracles could cut himself a new oar. While Heracles searched for a suitable tree, his young friend, Hylas, went to a pool to fill his jar with fresh water. When the nymph of the pool saw the handsome boy bending down, she fell in love with him. She pulled him down with her to the bottom of the pool, and Hylas vanished forever without leaving a trace. Heracles went out of his mind with grief when he could not find his friend. He ran through the woods, calling for Hylas, beating down whatever was in his way. The Argonauts, brave as they were, all feared Heracles when he was struck with folly. They hastily boarded the ship and sailed away without him. On toward the east, the Argonauts sailed until they came to a country ruled by a king who was known for his knowledge and wisdom. They went ashore to ask the way to Colchis, but the king was so weak that he could barely answer their questions. He was so thin that only his skin held his bones together. Whenever food was set before him, 3 disgusting harpies, fat birds with women's heads, swooped down and devoured it. What they did not eat they left so foul and filthy that it was not fit to be eaten. No one in his kingdom could keep the harpies away. The Argonauts felt sorry for the starving king. They told him to have his table set, and when the harpies swooped down again, Zetes and Calais, the sons of the north wind, took to their wings. They could fly faster than the harpies, and when they caught them, they whipped the evil pests so hard that they barely escaped with their lives. The harpies flew to the south, never to be seen again. At last, the famished king could eat in peace. He could not thank the Argonauts enough and told them how to set their course and what dangers they would encounter. No ship had yet been able to reach the shores of Colchis, he said, for the passage to the Black Sea was blocked by 2 moving rocks. The rocks rolled apart and clashed together, crushing whatever came between them. But if a ship could move as fast as a bird in flight, it might get through. He gave Jason a dove and told him to send the bird ahead of the ship. If the dove came through alive, they had a chance, he said. If not, they had better give up and turn back. The Argonauts took leave of the king and sailed toward the clashing rocks. From afar they could hear the din, and the heroes trembled. But as the rocks rolled apart, Jason released the dove, and the bird flew between them like a dart. Only the very tips of its tail feathers were clipped off when the rocks clashed together. "All men to the oars!" Jason shouted. Orpheus grasped his lyre and played, and his music inspired the heroes to row as never before. The Argo shot ahead like an arrow when the rocks rolled apart, and only the very end of its stern was crushed as they clashed together. Again the rocks rolled apart and stood firmly anchored. The spell was broken, and from then on ships could safely sail in and out of the Black Sea. The Black Sea was a dangerous sea to sail upon, and Hera had her hands full, guiding the Argonauts through perils. But with her help, Jason brought his ship safely through raging storms, past pirate shores and Cannibal Island, and the Argonauts finally arrived in Colchis. Aeetes, king of Colchis, a son of Helios the sun, was a very inhospitable king. In fact, he was so inhospitable that he killed all foreigners who came to his country. When he saw the Argo landing, he was furious, and when Jason led his men to his palace and said that they were all great heroes and had come to offer the king their services in return for the golden fleece, he fumed with rage. "Very well," he said to Jason. "Tomorrow, between sunrise and sunset, you must harness my fire-breathing bulls, plow up a field, and sow it with dragon's teeth